I have a stupid name. It's Heathcliff. My parents named me that because they loved The Cosby Show and they have no imagination. Anyway, my friends call me Cliff and I never ever tell the honeys my real name. At least my looks made up for my ridiculous name. I don't mean to boast, but I could steal your girl. I didn't grow up poor, so this isn't a sad story about how a poor boy got to experience the rich people's life. In fact, I live in an upper middle class neighborhood and I go to a private school with lots of other rich kids. My dad works in the entertainment industry, so he has lots of celebrity friends, and I've met many famous people throughout my life. It's been exciting. Before I continue my story, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more awesome content. If you do, you will become rich within the next 5 years. Trust me, it really works. I was having the perfect teenage life, playing video games, sleeping all weekend, and going on dates with beautiful girls. I had a different one each week. They loved me. Then, one day, my dad decided that I was too comfortable. I don't know why parents are like that. They see us enjoying our lives, and then they do something to mess that all up. Heathcliff, I think it's about time you found a part-time job, he said one day. Dad, are you mad at me? I'm still a kid. Why the hell would I want to work? I answered. That's exactly why. You don't know how to work for anything. Everything has been handed to you in life. I don't want you to grow up into an entitled idiot. You have to learn how to work hard for the things you want. I'm taking your video games away until you earn enough money to pay for them, he said. What? What did I do to you? Mom! I screamed for my mom, hoping she would come to my rescue. I'm sorry, son, but your father and I already discussed this. You have to become more responsible, she said. How could she betray me like that? What kind of job would I do anyway? I was too young to drive, so I couldn't deliver pizza. I didn't want to work at a convenience store. I just wanted to stay home and sleep, to be honest. I hated my parents and figured I'd just try to live without my games for a while. I didn't bother looking for a job, and I just hoped that my dad wouldn't bring it up ever again. I interacted with them like normal and everything was going fine. Until one day I got home from school and everything was gone from my room. All I had left was a bed. What the? Mom, where is my stuff? I screamed. My mom came up to my room. You think we forgot that you're supposed to be looking for a job? Lazy boy, you'll get your stuff back when you're working, she said. This has got to be illegal. Why are you all doing this to me? I whined. I think your father might know of someone who's looking for somebody. Go to his office and ask him about it now. I think he'll be there until tonight, she replied and walked away. Damn, I thought. Could you drive me there? I asked. Fine, she said while rolling her eyes. When we got to my dad's workplace, I said goodbye to my mom and took the elevator to the 20th floor. I found my dad in his office and he was talking to a famous billionaire rapper whose real name I'm not allowed to mention in this video. So I'll just refer to him as Lil T. He was your typical stereotypical rapper. Big chains, a few gold teeth, and expensive clothes. And it wasn't just for show. He really was rich. He was a family guy too, and I knew that he loved his wife and kids dearly. I'd never met them though. He liked to keep his family life private, and I think not even the media knew about his kids. Hey, we were just talking about you, Lil T said. Me? Why? I asked. My twin daughters are looking for an assistant, and I heard you're looking for a job. They're both billionaires like me. Well, they'll have even more when I die, he replied, laughing. Dad, don't say that, I heard a voice say. Then, suddenly, the hottest girls I had ever seen in my life walked in. They had caramel brown skin, hypnotizing hazel eyes, and long brown curly hair. They were identical, double the goodness. Oh my God, I thought. Hi Cliff, I'm Melanie, and this is Maria, one of the twins said. Hi, I said shyly. My dad looked like he was going to burst out laughing any minute. The pay is $2,000 a week. Are you interested? Lil T winked. A whole $2,000? Sure, I'm in, I said. I felt like I was going to jump out of my shoes. Although my parents were rich, I'd never been so close to so much money ever. My allowance was only about $50 a month. Well, great, you can start today. I'll leave you to get acquainted with the girls, he said, He walked out of the office with my dad and left me standing there. We're so happy our dad agreed to this. We are tired of all the old people who work for us at home. We wanted someone closer to our own age to be our assistant. No one is into old butlers anymore, Melanie laughed. Okay, I replied. I was still shy and didn't know what to say or do. This was a completely ridiculous feeling because I was used to girls. I always knew the right things to say and do, but these two had me frozen. Well, don't you want to know what the job is about? Maria said. I just stood there. Let's go back to our house and we'll tell you all about it, Melanie said to break the silence. I followed them. We went to the parking lot where their driver was waiting for them. I opened the door for them because I'm a gentleman, and we all got in. We drove into the wealthiest neighborhood in our district and got out when we reached their house. It was massive, but that was no surprise to me. It looked like whatever a billionaire's house was supposed to look like. We walked to the front door and one of the workers opened it and let us in. Let's go to Melanie's room. Follow me, Maria said. I followed them up 3 floors. When we got to Melanie's room, she opened the door and asked me to come in. It was a complete mess. Well, I suppose you could start here. I'll need you to pick all my clothes off the floor and hang them in the closet. Then I'd like you to arrange my makeup. You need to make sure that you do this well because I don't want to mix up my concealer and my foundation. You might need to do some research about makeup, she said as she led me towards her walk-in closet. She had thousands of shoes, and they were all over the place. I usually wear a pair of shoes once because after I take them off, I just toss them here, and it's hard to find the other side when I need it. I'll need you to arrange these shoes, so you can start with these things, Melanie smiled. Usually, being given orders and this type of job in general would have made me feel insulted. But I already told you how gorgeous these girls were. I mean, I would have stayed and drank their bathwater if that's what they wanted me to do. Okay, I replied and tried to smile flirtatiously. The first week you'll be working for me, and the second week you'll be working for Maria. Do you have any questions? She asked. No, I said. Well, we're going to lounge in the pool so you can get straight to work, she said. They smiled and left the room. Oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? I asked while I looked around at the mess. Not even my room is this messy. I got to work. I developed a routine. I'd stay there on Saturdays and Sundays and on weekdays. I'd work for them after school. It took me the entire week to clean up everything in Melanie's room. The clothes were color coordinated, the shoes were arranged by height, and everything was perfect. Spick and span. Then, when I came back the next day to marvel at my work, I walked in and everything was in a complete mess again. I nearly fainted. What the? I paused. What happened here? I cleaned it all up and now it's a garbage dump again, I gasped. I guess you're going to have to stay with me for 1 more week. You can go to Maria's room next week, Melanie replied. I could have sworn I saw a twinkle in her eyes as she said that. It was weird because that week, Melanie never left the room. She kept looking at me and it made me quite nervous. Sometimes she even helped me put her things away, making an effort to touch or brush me deliberately. When she had to change her clothes, she never asked me to leave the room, and it was really tempting for me to look. Well, I did peek a few times. What? I'm a teenage guy. Anyway, when it was finally Maria's week, she led me to her room. Actually, I don't really need you to do anything for me here, she said. I looked around and her room was perfect. Although the twins were identical, they had very different standards of cleanliness. So, what exactly do you want me to do then? I asked. Well, just spend time with me, I guess, she smiled. I blushed. Also, I write songs sometimes. When I leave school, I want to launch my music career. My dad already said he'd help me. Maybe you can help me write my songs and listen to me sing, she said. $2,000 a week just to listen to a gorgeous girl sing? Sure, I thought. That week was magical. I'd come over after school just to sit in Maria's room. We'd talk, she'd sing, and I'd give her feedback. Melanie would pop in once in a while, but most of the time she looked annoyed and left. When that week was over, I was confused. What was I supposed to do next? I got to their house on a Monday afternoon after school. I sat in the living room because the girls weren't in their rooms. Then I heard a loud bang and a crash coming from the kitchen. I ran towards the kitchen and peeped inside. Melanie was holding a butter knife and pointing it at her sister. You know it's my week, she said. But you got to keep him for 2 weeks last time, Maria replied. It doesn't matter. You're just trying to keep him all to yourself. He's going to choose me over you eventually anyway. He will be my boyfriend, Melanie screamed back at her sister. What? They like me in that way? I was sort of flattered. Instead of intervening, I left quietly and went home. I wasn't about to get sliced in anybody's kitchen. My dad was waiting in the living room when I got back. So, have you made your choice yet? He asked. What are you talking about? I replied. Which girl did you choose? He asked. What was going on? I was really confused. Lil T's girls have been crushing on you since the first time they saw you. Their dad only asked you to work for them so they could spend more time with you. He hoped you'd choose one. I hope so too, because then I won't have to worry about you anymore, he laughed. Suddenly, we heard a knock at the door. I opened it and the twins were standing right there. Listen, Cliff, we both like you and we can't decide who gets to keep you, so we want to share. Are you open to the idea of having 2 girlfriends? Maria asked. My dad laughed and left the room. Was I dreaming? Well, what do you think I answered? Tell me in the comments below.
I think I was about 5 years old when I realized my mom was very rich. Before then, I thought that everyone lived in a huge house like me, with cooks and maids and a private driver. I guess you would say I lived the perfect life. My mom ran a hugely successful company, and one day it would be mine. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and maybe you will be rich one day too. My friends were always telling me how lucky I was. I agreed with them, to be honest. I had everything that money could buy, but there was something missing. My dad. Mom never wanted to talk about my dad. I only knew that she had kicked him out of the house when I was about 2 years old, but I didn't know why. If I tried to bring up his name, Mom just changed the subject. I remember one time Mom got really angry. I was in the lounge and Mom was in the kitchen. My favorite song came on the television. I was singing at the top of my voice when Mom came running into the room. "Switch that television off, Jenna," she shouted. "You're just like your father." I looked at Mom in astonishment. She never shouted at me, and she definitely never mentioned my dad. "Why, Mom?" I asked. "He was a good-for-nothing musician, that's why," she said quietly. "I don't want you following in his footsteps." After that, I never sang in front of Mom again. I didn't stop singing, though. I would hide upstairs in my room and sing to my heart's content. Mom never knew. She probably thought I was playing my computer games. That's what most girls my age were doing. It wasn't that hard to hide my singing from Mom. Most of the time, she wasn't home. Her business was so successful, she spent all of her time there. Sometimes I wish she was like my friends' moms. They stayed home and baked cakes together. My mom never cooked me a meal. By the time she got home from work, I was usually already in bed. I knew that one day I would be working as many hours as Mom. I would be running her company. For as long as I could remember, Mom would tell me, "One day, Jenna, this will all be yours. You will be the CEO of my company." My best friend was Cheryl. She was the only one I could confide in. When we got to high school, we had to choose what subjects we wanted to study. Everyone was so serious about picking the right subjects. "What do you want to do when you leave school?" asked Cheryl one day. "It doesn't really matter what I want," I replied. "My life has already been chosen for me. I will be going to work at Mom's company when I leave school." Sometimes I felt a bit sad that everything was planned for me, but I didn't say anything to my mom. I didn't want her to think I was ungrateful. It might have been different if I had a brother or sister, but as I was an only child, of course it had to be me to take over the company. I looked at the list of subjects. It didn't really matter what I chose, but one subject jumped out at me: music. I put it down at the top of my list. "I'm taking music," I told Sherry, "but don't tell my mom, because she probably won't be happy about it." I wasn't really that interested at school, but I loved going to my music classes. We learned how to play the guitar and the piano, and we sang in the school choir. Sometimes we would put on a concert for the parents to watch, but I could never tell Mom about it. "Is your mom coming to watch the concert this year?" asked my music teacher, Mr. Henry. "No, sir," I replied. "She is busy at work." "Oh, that's a shame," he said. "I seem to remember she couldn't make it to the one last year either." The night of the school concert came, and I told Mom I was going to Cheryl's house for the evening. "Have fun, darling," called Mom. Don't wait up. I might be back late, I replied. The concert was so much fun. I really loved performing to an audience. At the end of the show, the parents of my friends all gathered around us, congratulating everyone. I felt a bit sad that my mom wasn't there too, but never mind. That was my final concert. I was graduating high school at the end of the year. I couldn't believe how quickly it had gone. And now I was going to start working at Mom's company. Cheryl was going to university. She wanted to become a teacher. My first day at work started off the same as any other. I sat having breakfast in the kitchen with Mom, but instead of waving goodbye to her as she left for work, I joined her in the car. We drove to work in silence. I knew that Mom would be thinking about all the meetings she had planned for the day. I was a little nervous, but I knew I had nothing to worry about. It wasn't like I was starting out at the bottom of the ladder. I was going straight in as a personal assistant to the CEO of the company, my mom. I had an office directly outside Mom's office. Mom showed me how to use the intercom and gave me some papers to sort through. Everyone was friendly towards me, but the day really dragged on. I was so bored. Well, I better get used to it. This was going to be my life for at least the next 40 years. I settled into my job and the weeks went by. At the end of the month, I got my first salary. I couldn't wait to open my bank statement and see the money that had gone into my account. I opened up my bank details on my phone, but froze. Wait a minute, there must be something wrong here. I looked at the money that had gone into my account. Surely there is a zero missing? I went through to my mom's office. Mom, I think the accounts department has made a mistake with my salary, I said. Mom looked at my phone. No, there's no mistake, she said. That's what I'm paying you. I was shocked, but I didn't want to seem ungrateful. Oh, okay, sorry, I'll get back to work, I stammered. I went back to my desk and picked up some files. There's no need to worry, I told myself. I'm sure it's only because I'm new at the company. Maybe everyone gets a low salary for the first couple of months. Kind of like a trial start. But the months went by, and my salary never increased. It was really starting to annoy me. I was the personal assistant to the CEO, and I was getting paid less than the tea and coffee girl downstairs. One night after a particularly difficult day at work, I just couldn't take it any longer. I went into Mom's office and confronted her. When am I going to get a fair salary? I asked. Your salary is fair, she replied. Are you kidding me? I screamed. Then I lost my temper. I hate you, and I hate this stupid job. I resign, I shouted. Mom didn't even try to stop me. Well, I had said it now, and I had to follow through with it. I grabbed my bag and stormed out of the building. Well, she needn't think I was going to be hanging around here any longer. I was going to move to another city. I packed my bags and left the house before Mom got home from work. I took the train to the next city. As I sat looking out of the train window, I thought about what I was going to do. I took out my phone and started searching through the adverts for accommodation. Eventually, I had found a place to stay, sharing with 3 girls, Kelly, Diane, and Lucy. The girls were really nice, and we soon were all getting along really well, laughing like we had known each other for years. Do you have a boyfriend? Asked Diane. No, I replied. Well, we have lots of friends. I'm sure you will find someone soon, she said. Oh, I need to find a job first, I said. Well, the restaurant I work at is looking for a waitress, said Lucy. Why don't you come tomorrow for an interview? I couldn't believe it. Everything was falling into place. I had new friends, a place to live, and now a job. I didn't need Mom. I could look after myself easily. But the next day, things didn't look quite so rosy. For a start, I burnt my toast for breakfast. I didn't know how to work the toaster. Who knew you had to set the dial at the correct number? I had never cooked for myself. I didn't know how to wash or iron, and as for cleaning the house, forget it. At first, the girls thought it was quite amusing that I couldn't do anything for myself, but then it started getting on their nerves. I knew that if I wanted to stay, I would have to teach myself all of these things. So that's what I did. I was so proud the first time I cooked them all a meal. It was only spaghetti bolognese, but it felt like a 5-star meal to me. Everything was great, except one thing. I didn't really earn enough money waitressing to keep me in the way I was used to living. I would need to get another job. But what else could I do? Then it came to me. I would go out busking in the evening. I bought myself a guitar and found a place on a busy street to stand. I began to play and sing. It wasn't long before a crowd was gathered around me. You're really good, said a man as he threw some coins into my guitar case. I made quite a lot of money that night. I went there every evening, and every time I drew a big crowd, One night, as I finished my last song, a man came up to me. "I've been watching you all evening," he said. "My name is Dave. I'm a record producer. I would like you to come to my studio tomorrow for my partner to listen to you." I was so shocked. He handed me a card with his details. "Be there at 11 o'clock, he said as he walked away. When I got home, I told the girls all about it. "Be careful, Jenna," they said. "This could be a scam." They're probably right, but I'm still gonna give it a try, I thought. The next day, I went to the studio. I sang for Dave's partner, and much to my surprise, he offered me a contract. After that, my life was a complete whirlwind. My first song came out, and it sold millions of copies. I had hit after hit. I moved out of the girls' apartment and into a mansion of my own. One day, I was sitting in the music room in my house when my assistant came in. "There's someone to see you," she said. "He says he's your father." I looked at her in shock. "Send him in," I said. The man walked in and ran to me. He gave me a big hug. "I'm your dad, Jenna," he said. Is he really my dad, or is he someone just after my money? I wondered. But then he said something that convinced me. "You get your voice from me. I'm a musician too." My dad came to live with me. We had a lot of time to make up for. I felt a bit awkward at first, but one evening we were sitting in the lounge after dinner and Dad turned to me. "Jenna, I don't suppose you'd like to sing with me?" he asked. "Yes, I'd love to," I said. I got my guitar and we began to sing together. Dad had a fantastic voice, and it felt so special spending time with him. That's when we really started to bond. I was so happy to be with my dad after all these years. But a few days later, my assistant came to me in my office. "I don't know how to tell you this," she said. "I saw your dad stealing some of your money and jewelry." "There must be an explanation," I told her. "I'll go ask my dad." I went through to the kitchen. Dad was sitting drinking a cup of coffee. "Is it true?" I asked. "Have you been stealing from me?" "You're just like your mother," he screamed. "I'm only taking what's rightfully mine. You owe me. Get out of my house," I shouted. "I never want to see you again." Dad left the house. At first, I was quite sad and lonely, but at least I had something to look forward to. The following week, I had my first concert. It was actually on Mom's birthday. As I sat there thinking about it, I began to think about my mom. I really missed her. I know, I'm going to send her an invitation to my concert. She probably won't come because she hates singing, but you never know, I thought. The night of the concert, I went out onto the stage. Thousands of people were there. I sang all of my hit songs. As the lights came on at the end of the show, I saw my mom at the front, clapping and waving and smiling at me. I asked my assistant to bring my mom to my dressing room. A few minutes later, she walked into the room. "I've missed you so much, Mom. I didn't think you would come," I said. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." "I'm so proud of you," she replied. I was happy, but a thought kept on nagging me. "Why didn't you pay me fairly when I worked for you?" I asked. "I did it for you," she said. "I knew you had always wanted to be a singer, but felt obligated to take over my company. I made you hate me so you would leave the company and follow your dreams." I had never felt happier. I had a brilliant career, and I now realize I had the best mom in the world, too. Ethan and Sarah walked past me, laughing and giggling to themselves. I could feel my blood boiling inside. What was he doing with her? He should be with me. Sarah had never liked me, and the feeling was mutual. I guess you could say we were arch enemies. That's why I hated the fact that she was dating Ethan. Everyone knew that I had always liked Ethan. We had known each other since we were 5 years old, but we had never dated. When Ethan started going out with Sarah, she couldn't wait to let me know. "Did you hear, Belinda? Me and Ethan are official," she said. I knew she was gloating. I didn't care what it was going to take. I had to find a way to steal him from her. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more crazy stories. I spent all the next weekend trying to come up with a plan to get Ethan for myself. I knew that he wouldn't just dump Sarah. It was obvious they were madly in love. It did cross my mind that I could kidnap Sarah, but then I realized that that would be a pretty crazy thing to do. Then it came to me. I had always been a bit of a computer whiz kid. Maybe I could use my computer skills to hack into the school computer system and change Ethan's grades. I knew that Ethan hadn't done very well in his end-of-year exams. I felt sure that if I changed all his grades to A's, then he would want to date me. After school the next day, I saw Ethan walking home alone. I ran to catch up with him. "Hi, Ethan," I said. "Oh, hi, Belinda," replied Ethan. "Hey, do you want to know a way to get straight A's this year?" I asked him. "I wish. My parents are going to be so mad when they see my end-of-year report. The highest grade I got was a D. What if I told you I can find a way to change all your grades to an A? Really? You'd do that for me?" "Of course I will. But there is one condition." "What's that?" "You start dating me." "But I already have a girlfriend." I told him that he would have to dump Sarah if he didn't want to get into trouble with his parents. At first, Ethan was hesitant. I could tell at that moment that he really liked Sarah. But then I could see his mind working when he realized how his parents might react when they found out he got D's in his exams. And then he nodded at me, even if it was reluctantly. So that's what he did. Ethan told Sarah they were over, and he started dating me. The first time Sarah saw us together wasn't very pleasant. "Ethan, what are you doing with Belinda?" Sarah asked. Ethan looked like he didn't know what to say, so I spoke instead. "We're dating now," I said smugly. "I can't believe it," Sarah cried. "Ethan, what happened to us? We were perfect for each other." Then she turned to me. "What did you do to get him from me? I know you must have meddled somehow. I bet you made up some lie about me, didn't you?" "Come on, Ethan," I said, pulling him with me. "She's crazy. Let's not waste any more of our time on her." At first, things went really well with Ethan. I felt really happy he was my boyfriend. But looking back, I think that was mainly because I was just glad that I got one over on Sarah. Soon, the novelty of dating him began to wear off. He wasn't really my type, to be honest. Actually, he was quite boring. All he ever wanted to do was sit at home playing computer games, week in, week out. I was the complete opposite of him. I hated staying at home, and I hated playing computer games. I wanted him to take me to the movies or to a nice restaurant. But whenever I suggested we do something, he always had some reason for not being able to go. Finally, after another boring evening sitting in his house, I decided I was going to end it with him. "I'm sorry, Ethan. It's just not working out." Ethan was fine about it. "Let's just agree to be friends," he said. "Of course," I said. "Oh, but make sure you don't tell anyone that I changed your grades, or I will change them back again. But this time, I will make them worse than before. I won't tell anyone, I promise." The next time I saw a boy I liked, I didn't bother wasting my time flirting with him. I just got straight to the point. I offered to change his grades if he dated me, but I soon got bored with him and moved on to the next boy. I dated boy after boy. None of them lasted very long, though. It was too easy to just get another boy when I got bored. I could get any boy I wanted. One thing did surprise me, though. Ethan ended up getting back with Sarah. When I first found out they were dating, I started panicking. What if he tells Sarah what I've done for him? I thought. I decided I would have to speak to him. The first chance I got, I went up to him and whispered in his ears, "Don't forget your promise, or you're going to get a fail in every subject." "Don't worry, I haven't told anyone," he said. "Your secret is safe with me." After our conversation, I stopped worrying about Ethan, which is why it came as a big shock when I bumped into Sarah at school the next day. "I know what you did," she said. "I know that you've been changing all the boys' grades so that they will date you." My heart sank. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I can't believe Ethan told you," I said. "He promised me he wouldn't say anything." "What?" Sarah said. "No, it wasn't Ethan that told me." "Well, if it wasn't him, who was it then?" "It was Mrs. Walker, the school secretary." "Yup. Why would she tell you?" "Because she's my auntie." I listened in shock as Sarah told me that her auntie had noticed that some of the boys' grades were a lot higher than she remembered them getting. She had gone to the principal and told him what she had found. The principal searched the computer history to see who had accessed the system. He then traced the IP address and found out that it had come from a computer located at my home address. "Once I knew you had changed the grades, I put 2 and 2 together and realized how you had got Ethan and all the other boys to date you," she said. "I couldn't believe that I had been caught. Oh my God, the principal is going to tell my parents and I'll probably get expelled." I thought, they're going to be so angry with me. I knew there was nothing else for it. I was going to have to find a way to blackmail the principal, so he didn't tell my parents what I had done. When I got home, I went straight to my room and switched on my computer. I began to investigate the principal. I was hoping I might find an embarrassing photo or something like that. The last thing I imagined I would find was that he was actually a wanted criminal. It was all there in black and white. He had escaped from prison and was on the run. The FBI had been looking for him for almost 5 years. I had no idea how he had managed to evade them for so long, but this was just what I needed. When the bell rang at the end of school the next day, I waited around until everyone else had left the school building. I went straight to the principal's office and knocked on the door loudly. "Come in," said the principal. I walked into his office and sat down at his desk. He looked a bit shocked to see me. He probably thought that I was there to ask for forgiveness. But he was wrong. "I know. You're an escaped prisoner," I told him. His face turned white. "You better not tell anyone what I've done, or I will call the FBI and tell them where you are," I said. "Okay, you win," he said. "I won't tell anyone." I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Finally, I could relax again. Everything was going to be okay. I was just about to leave his office when suddenly the door burst open and the room was filled with FBI agents. "Put your hands in the air," one officer shouted. The principal did as they said. They put handcuffs on him and let him out of the school building. As he went out, he turned to me and said, "This is all your fault, Belinda. You're going to regret what you've done to me." I was so confused. I hadn't told the FBI yet. Why were they here? I looked at Mrs. Walker standing in the doorway. "What just happened?" I asked her. "I overheard you blackmailing the principal," she said. "I called the FBI and told them everything." "What? Why would you do that? My life is going to be ruined now because of you," I screamed at her. We found out at school that the principal had been taken back to prison. Mrs. Walker ended up calling my parents and telling them everything that I had done. "We're so disappointed in you, Belinda," said my dad when he came to pick me up. "You're grounded for a month." When I went back to school, no one would speak to me. Sarah had told everyone that I had been changing grades and that I had tried to blackmail the school principal. It was a pretty miserable time for me. It was towards the end of term, and I was walking home from school all alone. Nobody wanted to walk with me anymore. Suddenly, I felt a strange sensation. I was sure someone was following me. I turned around, but I couldn't see anyone at all. I carried on walking and was almost home when I felt someone grab me from behind. I couldn't see who it was. They put their hands over my mouth and blindfolded me. The next thing I knew, I was being pushed into a car. I tried to scream, but the hand over my mouth just stifled the sound. We drove for about 10 minutes and then the car stopped. Someone took me out of the car and led me into a building. Someone took off the blindfold. The glare from the light blinded me for a few seconds, but eventually everything came into focus. 2 men were standing in front of me. "What do you want with me?" I cried. "Please, don't hurt me." "Do you remember what you did to your school principal?" one of the men asked. I felt the fear rising up inside me. I remember the principal's words as the police were taking him away. "I'm sorry," I said. "I wasn't going to tell the FBI. It was all a mistake." "Well, it's a mistake that's going to cost you a lot," the other man said. "Now you just sit here and don't make a sound. We will be back in an hour." They left the room and I heard the sound of the key in the door. I had no idea what they were going to do with me, but I knew that I had to try to find a way out of there. Luckily, they hadn't tied me up. I looked around the room, but the only way out was through the locked door. It was no good. There was nothing I could do. I had no choice but to just sit there and wait for them to come back. It wasn't long before I heard the sound of the key turning in the door. I took a deep breath. This was my only chance. When the door opened, I was going to try and make an escape. I stood up, but when the door opened, it wasn't the 2 men standing there. It was Ethan. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" I asked. "I've come to save you," he said. "Quick, follow me." I didn't wait around a second longer. I ran out the door and followed Ethan outside. We ran down the street as fast as we could. We had to get away before the 2 men came back. Eventually, we were out of breath and had to stop running. Then we hid in a shop doorway. "How did you know where to find me?" I asked Ethan. "I was walking behind you on the way home from school, and I saw the men bundling you into the car," he said. "So I followed them and waited outside the building. When I saw them leave, I went inside the building. I couldn't believe they had left the key in the door." "You've saved my life, Ethan," I said. "What can I do to repay you?" "There is one thing I would like." "Anything, anything." "I want you and Sarah to put everything behind you. I want you two to become friends." The thought of being friends with my arch enemy was disgusting to me, but I really didn't have a choice, did I? So now Sarah and I are doing our best to become friends. For Ethan's sake.